In the quiet shadows of a life post-service, former U.S. Marine Dan stood at a crossroads. The battlefield had left invisible scars, a heavy burden of PTSD that clung to him like a second skin. The world he had fought to protect now felt alien, a place where the clamor of civilian life was a constant, jarring reminder of the silence he craved but could never find. His days were a blur of isolation, his nights filled with restless ghosts. Every path seemed to lead to a dead end, and hope was a word he'd almost forgotten. He felt broken, a soldier without a war, a man without a mission. Little did he know his most important mission was just about to begin, not on a foreign battlefield, but in a dusty, forgotten corner of a horse rescue. One afternoon, scrolling aimlessly online, a picture snagged his attention. It wasn't a majestic stallion or a prize-winning mare. It was a horse named Cinny, short for Cinnabon. The photo showed a creature as broken as Dan felt. Cinny was severely emaciated, his ribs a stark testament to neglect. His coat was matted and dull, his eyes held a profound sadness, a look of defeat that resonated deep within Dan's own soul. The caption told a story of abuse and starvation. Cinny had been found tied to a pole, left for dead. He was terrified of everything: loud noises, sudden movements, even the gentle touch of a human hand. In Cinny's frightened eyes, Don saw a reflection of his own pain, his own feelings of being abandoned and misunderstood. A strange, undeniable pull urged him forward. He had to meet this horse. Driving to the rescue facility, a knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. What was he even doing? He could barely take care of himself, let alone a traumatized animal. But when he saw Cinny in person, all doubt vanished. The horse was even more fragile than in the pictures, a skeleton draped in skin. He flinched as Dan approached, his body trembling. Don didn't try to touch him. Instead, he just stood there, speaking softly, his voice a low, steady murmur. He talked about his day, about the weather, about anything and everything. He didn't talk about the war, but he didn't have to. The horse seemed to understand the language of his silent suffering. For the first time in years, Don felt a flicker of purpose. He knew, with a certainty that shook him to his core, that he had to save this horse. Bringing Cinny home was the start of a long, arduous journey. The first few weeks were a delicate dance of patience and fear. Cinny was so weak he could barely stand, and his terror of humans was a wall Don had to carefully dismantle, brick by brick. Don would spend hours just sitting in the stall, not looking at Cinny, just being a quiet, non-threatening presence. He'd read aloud, his voice a calm anchor in the horse's storm of fear. He learned that Cinny had a particular fear of plastic bags, their rustling sound sending him into a panic. So Dan surrounded him with them, not to terrorize him, but to gently desensitize him, showing him they were harmless. Slowly, cautiously, Cinny began to change. He started to watch Dan with curiosity instead of terror. One day, after weeks of patient effort, Cinny took a hesitant step forward and gently nudged Dan's hand with his muzzle. It was a small gesture, but for Don it felt like a monumental victory. A tear traced a path through the dust on his cheek. It was the first time he had cried, not from grief but from joy, in a very long time. As Don nursed Cinny back to physical health, something remarkable began to happen. The act of caring for this broken creature was in turn healing him. The routine of feeding, grooming, and mucking out the stall gave his days a structure they desperately needed. Focusing on Cinny's needs forced Dan to step outside of his own head, to quiet the relentless loop of traumatic memories. When he was with Cinny, the hypervigilance that plagued him softened. He learned to be present, to focus on the soft brush strokes through Cinny's growing coat, the gentle rhythm of his breathing. The horse, who had every reason to distrust humans, was choosing to trust him. This profound act of forgiveness from an animal began to teach Don how to forgive himself. He wasn't just a broken soldier anymore. He was a caretaker, a protector, a friend. With each pound Cinny gained, Dan felt a corresponding lightness in his own spirit. The horse's coat began to gleam with a healthy shine, and his eyes, once dull with despair, now held a bright spark of life. He started to nicker with excitement when he heard Dan's truck pull up. Their bond deepened with every shared moment. Don began teaching Cinny simple commands, using gentle, positive reinforcement. He discovered that Cindy was incredibly intelligent and eager to please. The training wasn't about dominance. It was about communication and trust. It was a partnership. As they worked together, Dan's confidence grew. The man who once struggled to leave his house was now spending all his time outdoors, breathing in the fresh air, feeling the sun on his face. The world started to feel less like a threat and more like a place of possibility. One of their biggest breakthroughs came with trail riding. The first time Dan tried to saddle Cindy, the horse panicked, his old fears rushing back, but Dan was patient. He didn't force it. He broke it down into tiny steps, rewarding every moment of calm. Finally, the day came when they ventured out onto a trail for the first time. It was a crisp autumn morning, the leaves a riot of color. As they moved together through the woods, a profound sense of peace settled over Dan. Here, in the quiet of nature, with his trusted partner beneath him, the noise in his head finally went silent. It was just the sound of hooves on the earth, the rustle of leaves, and the steady breathing of two souls who had found solace in one another. Cindy, once terrified of the world, now moved with a calm confidence, trusting Dan to lead him. And Dan, once lost in the darkness of his past, was now leading the way into a brighter future. The transformation was astonishing to everyone who knew them. Dan's family saw the light return to his eyes. His therapist noted the dramatic decrease in his PTSD symptoms. He was sleeping through the night, the nightmares replaced by peaceful dreams. He reconnected with friends and even started volunteering at the very rescue where he found Cindy, helping other veterans connect with horses. He had found his new mission, to share the healing power that he had discovered. He and Cindy became ambassadors of hope, their story a powerful testament to the fact that sometimes the best way to heal our own broken pieces is by helping to mend someone else's. They were no longer a broken veteran and a broken horse. They were a team, a partnership, a family. Their journey wasn't about erasing the scars of the past. The scars were still there for both of them, but they were no longer gaping wounds. They were reminders of battles fought and survived. Dan and Cindy's story is a beautiful illustration of how two wounded souls, discarded by the world, can find each other and not only heal but become stronger, more whole than they ever were before. They saved each other, proving that empathy, patience, and the unspoken language of kindness can build a bridge across even the deepest chasm of pain. Their bond is a quiet, powerful reminder that no one is ever truly broken beyond repair. Sometimes all it takes is finding that one other soul who understands your silent language, and walking the path to healing together. Thank you so much for watching their incredible story. If you were touched by Dan and Cindy's journey, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to our channel for more inspiring content. We'll see you in the next one.